So I'm going to read a little bit from Myths and Legends. I'm still in the Greek mythology section. So I left off on Dionysus. Tap off. Okay. So Dionysus, the god of wine. Dionysus was an anarchic figure who presided over drunkenness and other irrational or altered states, such as religious ecstasy. A shape changer, he could take the form of an animal, but also appeared as a human, when he was often accompanied by revelers or animals. These qualities made him a patron of actors, and plays were regularly performed at the Athenian festivals held in his name. Dionysus, the god of wine in all its aspects. Dionysus has often been portrayed as a handsome young man carrying a cup with vine leaves in his hair. The rescue of Dionysus. When Zeus, disguised as a mortal, began an affair with Semele, the daughter of King Cadmus and Queen Harmonia of Thebes, his wife Hera grew jealous and plotted her revenge. She took the form of an old woman and persuaded Semele to ask the god to appear before her in all his splendor. When he did so, the heat from his thunderbolts killed Semele, who was immortal. Am I saying that right? Semele? One of the gods, some say Hermes, others the river goddess Dirce, rescued her unborn child Dionysus and took him to Zeus, who cut an opening in his thigh and placed the child safely inside until it was ready to be born. When Dionysus emerged from Zeus's thigh, Hera was so angry that she incited the Titans to tear the baby to pieces. His grandmother, Rhea, took pity on Dionysus and put his body back together and carried him to foster parents. Again, Hera discovered what had happened, so to protect him, Rhea disguised the child as a ram. Hera. In the story of Dionysus, Hera plays her usual role as a jealous wife. She defeats her rival Semele, but not Semele's child. Semele. Flames from Zeus's thunderbolt killed her Semele. Her story became a popular subject for painters and for the composer Handel, who wrote an opera about her. The journey of Dionysus. As he grew up, Dionysus became restless and went on a series of long journeys. Wherever he traveled, he became famous for his drunken excesses, which ended in a kind of insane frenzy. Many said that this frenzy was caused by Hera, who was still resentful that the son of Semele had survived. Dionysus was accompanied on his travels by satyrs, led by their king Silenus. Also among his companions were a group of female followers called the Maenads. The Maenads were possessed with a kind of madness in which they worked themselves into an ecstatic frenzy. As they did this, they danced a wild dance, eventually getting so out of control that they would rip apart any creature they came across. The Maenads drew their strength from Dionysus, so that nothing, neither fire nor the sword, could stop their dance or bring them to harm. Satyrs. The offspring of a mountain nymph and a goat. The satyr was half man, half goat. Satyrs were famous for getting drunk and for being lewd. Maenads. The Maenads wore sheer dresses and danced to the music of the double flute and tambourine. They had power over wild beasts and were sometimes shown riding panthers. Silenus, a wise old satyr Silenus led Dionysus's followers. Some myths say he was one of those who brought up the god when he was a child. The wine-dark sea. As he traveled around the Mediterranean, Dionysus told those who met and followed him how to harvest the grapes, press them, and turn their juice into wine. When people tasted the results, he became very popular. Once the god was on his travels when he was captured by pirates who thought he was a wealthy young man. When the pirates tried to tie him up, however, the knots kept untying of their own accord. Dionysus then made the mast and rigging turn into grapevines and transformed the sea around the ship into wine. The pirates were so frightened by the sight of this that they jumped into the sea. Pirate porpoises. When the terrified pirates jumped into the sea, Dionysus turned them all into porpoises, and depicted in this painting on the inside of a cup from around 530 BCE. The tragedy of Pentheus. The dancing journey of Dionysus and the Maenads brought them to Thebes, which was ruled by Pentheus. The young king's mother, Agave, it looks like Agave, was attracted to Dionysus and became a Maenad, getting drunk and joining the frenzied dance. Pentheus was horrified to see his mother's behavior and decided to try and stop the dance. He turned for advice to Dionysus, who told the king to hide and watch secretly before doing anything. However, the Maenads discovered Pentheus and tore him to pieces. The death of Pentheus. Among the Maenads who attacked Pentheus was his own mother, Agave. In her frenzy, she at first thought she was killing a lion, before realizing it was her son. Athena. A powerful war goddess, Athena was usually depicted with her shield or protective cloak, known as the Aegis. She was also a patron of crafts, especially pottery, weaving, and shipbuilding, and the goddess of the city of Athens. She inherited the wisdom of her mother, Metis, an attribute that made her favor Odysseus, the wisest and most cunning of the Greek heroes. In all these roles, she was especially valued because she was always accessible, unlike many gods who kept their distance from humans. Athena armed for war. Athena's favorite weapon was her spear, which she held upright when at rest and brandished aloft when in battle. She also wore a helmet to protect her head. The birth of Athena. One of the first loves of the god Zeus was Metis, daughter of the Titans Oceanus and Tethys. Metis was known not only for her beauty, but also for her brains. Her name means cunning intelligence. She was especially dear to Zeus, but when she became pregnant, Gaia and Uranus told Zeus that after she had given birth to a daughter, Metis would then have a son, also by Zeus, who would take away all his power. They advised Zeus to act at once to prevent this. Gaia told Zeus that the best way to stop this chain of events was to swallow Metis whole before she gave birth. Zeus did this, but when it was time for Metis' daughter to be born, Hephaestus intervened, splitting open Zeus's head with an axe and enabling the child to step forth. Miraculously, Athena emerged from Zeus's skull fully armed, uttering a war cry. According to several accounts, Athena was her father's favorite child and the only one allowed to use his aegis. Athena's birth. Early depictions of the birth of Athena, such as this vase painting, show the goddess emerging from her father's head, already equipped with arms and armor. Goddess of Athens. Athena won the right to be venerated as the goddess of Athens when, in competition with Poseidon, she gave the citizens of Athens the valuable gift of the olive tree. The people acknowledged her importance by putting images of her and her sacred bird, the owl, on their coins. To worship her, they built the Parthenon on the Acropolis above the city, where the contest between Athena and Poseidon was depicted in a sculpture. This temple also housed a massive ivory and gold statue of Athena, created by the noted sculptor Phidias. Unfortunately, the statue no longer exists, though many miniature reproductions of it have been found. The temple's name comes from the title Parthenos, Virgin, given to the goddess because she guarded her chastity so carefully. Athenian coin, the Parthenon. Arachne, turning into a spider. Athena took pity on Arachne and turned her into a spider so that she could go on spinning and weaving forever while hanging by a thread. The weaving contest. One of Athena's roles was as the goddess of weavers and embroiderers. When someone was good at weaving, people said their gift came from Athena. But Arachne, a mortal girl and a fine weaver, insisted that her gift was her own and had nothing to do with the goddess. This angered Athena, so she challenged Arachne to a weaving and embroidery contest. Athena saw that Arachne's weaving was at least as good as her own work, which showed the gods victorious over the mortals. However, she was offended by the subject of Arachne's tapestry, which depicted the various infidelities of her father, Zeus. In her jealousy and rage, she tore up Arachne's work. A humiliated Arachne resolved to hang herself, but Athena decided that this was too harsh a punishment and transformed Arachne into a spider instead, so that she could continue weaving. Arachne weaving. Athena was spellbound by the beauty and quality of Arachne's work. Some say she was so jealous that in a fit of anger, she struck the girl with her own weaving shuttle. To the goddess yield and humbly meek, a pardon for your bold presumption seek. Ovid, Metamorphoses. Athena and Hephaestus. The craftsman god Hephaestus, who rescued Athena from her father's skull, had a lasting interest in the goddess. As she grew up, Hephaestus fell in love with her and asked Zeus for permission to marry her. Zeus agreed, providing that his daughter was willing, but Athena valued her virginity and did not want to marry, so she turned Hephaestus down. Hephaestus then tried to rape Athena, but the powerful goddess pushed him away, and Hephaestus spilled his seed onto the ground. The seed fertilized Gaia, Mother Earth, and Dionysus was created. Athena agreed to rear the child, and he grew up to later become the ruler of Athens. Athena, the foster mother. Gaia hands over her newborn son, Dionysus, to the waiting Athena, while Hephaestus looks on. The bathing of Athena. Athena, who was a modest goddess, did not like others to watch when she bathed in the sacred spring called Hippocrene on Mount Helicon. But Tiresias, a man from Thebes, was so entranced by the beauty of the goddess that he followed her and her attendant nymphs and spied on the goddess as she took off her clothes and bathed. When Athena realized she was being watched, She climbed out and in her anger hit Tiresias across the eyes, making him go blind. One of the nymphs was sorry for Tiresias and begged Athena to give him something in compensation for the loss of his sight. So Athena gave Tiresias the gift of prophecy. Tiresias. The seer Tiresias predicted many events, using his gifts of prophecy to intervene in numerous myths, including those about Oedipus and the city of Thebes. The loves of Aphrodite. The name Aphrodite, the goddess of love, means born from the foam. She was born in the frothing sea and was famous both for her exquisite beauty and for her many lovers, who included both gods and mortals. Her partners found it impossible to resist her charms, and this magnetic attraction made her one of the most powerful of all the deities. Yet some accounts describe her as vain, ill-tempered, and easily offended. Her children included the Trojan prince Aeneas and Priapus, the god of fertility. Dove, symbol of Aphrodite. The myth. Aphrodite was married to Hephaestus, the divine blacksmith. He adorned her and crafted beautiful gifts for her. Among them was a golden chariot drawn by doves, which were sacred to her. However, she was frequently unfaithful to him. Of her many affairs, the most famous of all was with Ares, the god of war. This affair produced 4 children, the first 2 of whom took after their father, while the second 2 inherited their mother's character. They were Deimos, terror, Phobos, fear, Harmonia, harmony, and according to some accounts of the story, Eros, sexual love. The lovers trapped. It was some time before Hephaestus found out about his wife's liaison with his brother Ares, but when he did, he decided to take revenge by ridiculing the couple. He used his skill in metalworking to make a large net out of bronze wire, and secretly suspended this above the lover's bed. When the pair were in bed together, Hephaestus tugged the net so that it fell on the couple, trapping them. Then he called the gods to witness the ludicrous sight. Mortal loves. Another of Aphrodite's loves was a mortal called Adonis. Unfortunately, Persephone, wife of Hades, the god of the underworld, also fell in love with him. Of the 2, Adonis preferred Aphrodite, and a jealous Persephone told Ares about the affair. Enraged, Ares unleashed a wild boar, which attacked Adonis and killed him. When he died, Adonis arrived in the underworld, where he was immediately pursued by Persephone. Aphrodite appealed to Zeus, and the king of the gods decided on a compromise. Adonis would spend half the year in the underworld with Persephone, and the other half with Aphrodite. The death of Adonis shows how dangerous it was for a mere mortal to fall in love with Aphrodite. Another mortal who fell for her charms, Anchises, also paid dearly. Anchises was a shepherd whose liaison with Aphrodite produced the hero Aeneas, ancestor of the Romans. Aphrodite disguised herself as a mortal to sleep with Anchises, but he glimpsed her in her true form. Aphrodite made him promise not to reveal the affair. An alliance with a mere shepherd would damage her reputation. But once when Anchises was drunk, he revealed the secret and was blinded, or some say lamed, by Zeus as a punishment. The goddess of love. Usually depicted as a beautiful young woman, Aphrodite is often shown naked because she represented physical perfection. She was a favorite subject for sculptors. Aphrodite's birth. Aphrodite is said to be the daughter of the Titan Uranus. Gaia and Uranus had many children, including the Cyclops and the 100-handed giants. Aghast at their monstrous appearance, Uranus decided to imprison all of them in Tartarus. Gaia did not want any more children and pleaded with her offspring to protect her from Uranus's advances. Finally, Cronus borrowed a sickle from his mother and cut off his father's genitals, which he threw into the sea. And their seed fertilized the water, and Aphrodite rose fully grown from the foaming waves. Aphrodite. The birth of Aphrodite is often depicted in paintings, where the goddess is shown rising from the waves on a shell. Hephaestus, the god of fire and metalworking. Hephaestus was also the deity who controlled volcanoes, which were said to be his workshops. He was lame as the result of an injury that came about when he had an argument with Zeus, who then threw him off Mount Olympus. This infirmity gave Hephaestus a comic quality for the Greeks, who revered physical perfection. In spite of this, he was admired for his ingenuity and skill in making things, from the net that captured Aphrodite and Ares to a magical throne on which he could imprison his enemies. Hephaestus's net. The gods looked down from Mount Olympus and laughed at the sight of the adulterous couple ensnared in Hephaestus's net. Aphrodite's lovers. Aphrodite's power to make others fall in love with her came from her great physical beauty. She also had an aphrodisiac girdle, ironically gifted to her by Hephaestus, which she wore next to her breasts. This girdle was the envy of other goddesses who wanted Aphrodite's allure. Homer's Iliad, for example, tells how the goddess Hera borrowed it to distract Zeus with her charms during the Trojan War, so that the Greeks could win. Although Aphrodite was married to Hephaestus and was in love with Ares, she also used her charms to attract many other lovers. Adonis. The mortal Adonis was a passionate hunter. He disregarded Aphrodite's warning about hunting an animal that knows no fear, and paid the price when he was killed by a wild boar sent by Ares. Hermes, the messenger of the gods, was attracted to Aphrodite when he saw her under the net with Ares. His affair with her produced the child Hermaphroditus. Ares and Aphrodite. The sun god Helios, from whom nothing was hidden, spied Ares and Aphrodite together and informed Hephaestus, who then planned his revenge. Pygmalion was a remarkable sculptor who poured all his energy into his work. He was so skilled that once he carved a statue of a beautiful woman that was incredibly lifelike. He fell in love with it and prayed to Aphrodite to let him make love to his creation. Aphrodite took pity on him and transformed the statue into a real woman named Galatea, whom Pygmalion later married. So, I'll stop here for now. Put this back. Next time I read from here, I'll continue on the underworld. So that was a little bit from Myths and Legends by Philip Wilkinson. Hope it helped you fall asleep a little bit. So thank you for watching my videos and liking and subscribing and everything.